bottom line. I think the bottom line of slavery are your own senses. Like, no matter what I'm told, that it's cold outside, I feel warm. That's the bottom line. So once they can convince you that your senses are wrong, well, then you're completely open for the slave program. Once you can look at something with your eyes and ignore your eyes, you're a prime candidate. So I think a lot of this has also something to do with that. You are gonna say that's a girl. That's what you are going to say because you have to. And if you say it long enough, you'll think it. And if you won't, your children will, because we'll tell them. So eventually, you're gonna say it. And then it becomes true. Then you ignore your eyes. Now you believe anything, right? Till the next thing comes along. I wanna actually genuinely give my heartfelt condolences to any young person who falls for this crap, because you're gonna be so miserable for the rest of your life. If you chop off your genitals and take a whole bunch of chemicals as a teenager, you are gonna be miserable for the rest of your life. Yes. You're never gonna be the person you wanna be. You're never gonna be accepted as that person. You're never gonna feel happy inside. If you fall for this, I genuinely feel sorry for you. You have to throw away all the science and your entire worldview and everything about how you view the world. You have to eject that from your brain and call me what I want to be called. Is extremely arrogant. And if I went through the world and said everyone had to call me King Andrew, they'd tell me shut up. Why? If they can get called whatever they want, I should be able to get called whatever I want. I want to be King Andrew, #1 savior of Earth, climate change activist. That's what I want to be. And if anybody calls me anything else, they're a bigot. That's what we're going to do. If we're going to go down that path, I'm going to make sure that my title is good. Lord of all beasts of the land and fishes in the sea. The most honorable man who's ever lived. The fastest human alive. Who cares? Doesn't matter that I can't run fastest. It doesn't matter, Tucker. I'm the fastest human alive. You must affirm my belief. I'm the fastest man alive. Greatest man in show business. Sorry, Tucker. You think you can go to Tajikistan where people are trying to eat and talk to them about gender and all this garbage? They'll be like, listen, you're a man, this needs doing. Shut up, right? There's no time for any of that. So as the Western world is self-destructing in real time, there are places in the world where none of this crap is happening. It's amazing how quickly they can adapt. And that's for their own survival. That's fantastic. But then if you extrapolate that out and you understand that to be true, then you also understand that women are more susceptible to programming to a degree. I got called misogynistic by saying that if you sit 100 men and 100 women down in front of propaganda, I believe that women are more likely to believe a lot of it. I think a lot of liberals are female. They're more emotional, and it's easier to convince them of something if you use an emotionally led argument, right? So if by extension you now have women who are emotionally led, who are being convinced and their logic is failing because they're being tricked with an emotionally led argument, and the man they're meeting has no principle and no honor, and he can't resist that, she's in charge of the house, well, now she's telling the man what to do. Right? If I would have come home during COVID and my woman said, you need to wear a mask, I'd say, no, I don't. End of conversation. Where if I was a simp, you need to wear a mask. Okay, baby. Don't, all right. So the women are also largely in charge of the psyop because the men are so desperate to get any kind of connection with a real person and avoid the porn screen. And then these women are being controlled by the mass media as a whole. I say this to, I have children, I don't talk about it often, but I say to the mothers of my children, I say, look, either we program their minds or society does. Who do you believe in? Everyone is being programmed by somebody and something. Me, you, everybody. We're all programmed by someone. To sit and think you're above programming is incorrect. What you have to do is sit and say, does the person who's programming genuinely have my best interests at heart? What do they want me to believe? Why do they want me to believe it? What happens if I believe what they want me to believe? Where does this lead? That's all we can do. We're all programmed. We're all the sum of the 5 people we spend the most time with. Right? So if you have women with no father, no strong masculine influence, who's programming them? The Kardashians and the news? The internet? Porn stars? What kind of woman's that going to be? And then if a man finally ends up with her and he has no backbone, what kind of man is he going to be? I don't want to comment on these things because I don't want to make personal enemies of people I don't know. There's a guy called Adam22. Once again, I have no idea who this man is. I just saw on Twitter yesterday that he was with a porn star who'd never done a male scene. They got married, and like a week after their marriage, she did her first male scene with some random dude. And he's on a podcast defending it.
Did his wife have sex with somebody else?
Correct. Why? Like this is the level you can, but this is what the Matrix wants from you as a man. They want the woman in charge and the man below with no backbone, because if the woman's in charge, they can emotionally affect her. They can scare her. You can scare a woman easier than you can scare a man. A man. A real man's hard to scare. A woman you can make afraid of the vaccine, right? Be afraid, COVID, be scared. If she's in charge of the household, I would argue in nearly any household where the female was dominant, everyone's vaccinated. I would argue that point hard.
Of course.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I would argue it. I don't have the statistics. It's just logic to me. So talk about women being unhappy. What's actually interesting about the female mind, once again, they're going to call me a misogynist, is that when you're an emotionally led person, you're more prone to chaos. It takes real stoicism to lead. So why are these women unhappy? Because no one's leading them. No fathers, no men of no backbone, no man they respect. So they're relying on society, which is promoting chaos, and their own mental state. Women will say all the time, my period was coming up, so I was crazy. Like, they'll say that themselves. So without any kind of hard rock of emotional security, to give her a hug and say, don't worry, baby, calm down, it's okay. When you have no hard rock of emotional security and you leave her to her own devices, she's going to be, to a degree, chaotic.
Does it surprise you that the weakest president is also the most destructive?
Weak men are always destructive because hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
I don't know, I heard someone said that to me a long time ago. Hurt people hurt people. They were talking about a relationship, and I said, that's true. If your heart's been broken, you're probably going to be a bit of an asshole and break someone's heart. Hurt people hurt people. And then I thought, well, if you're a weak man and you're going through life and you don't have the strength and resilience to resist the trials and tribulations of being a man, and you're constantly hurt by everything, and you're constantly upset and depressed and sad because you're weak, how could you possibly do good? Hurt people, right? To do good, you have to be a good person to begin with, and to be a good person, you're virtuous and you've gone through a lot of things that made you strong. This is what's mind-bending to me, that the idea that strong men are somehow bad. And it's the ultimate hypocrisy, because as soon as something happens, especially physically, as soon as a liberal is attacked, they call the police. Defund the police! Call the police. Don't be masculine. Police officer, please. They want a big, strong man with a gun. Guns are bad. They want him to have one, right? So the ultimate hypocrisy on every level is absolutely and utterly insane. At the base realities of humanity, the absolute base reality, strength in men is respected and wanted. And I think that the closer you get to unfortunate circumstance, the closer you get to reality. They go hand in hand. And then everyone's looking for the strong men. So strong men should always lead, I believe. And for a longest period of human time, that's how society functioned. The strongest men led. But in the Western world now, that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. And weak men are emotionally led. They're not particularly stoic. They're impulsive. And I would say that the most heinous acts, perhaps, that happen in modern society today are purported and committed by weak men. I don't think a school shooter is a strong man. I think it's a weak man. I think it's a man who's been picked on, got butthurt, is upset, girls don't like him, never learned any emotional control. He's the kind of person who does exactly what the TV tells him to do. Act out your feelings, cry when you want to cry. Well, now he's angry, so now what? You told him to act out his feelings. What do you expect him to do? I think that weak men do the worst things. I think weak men hurt women. I think weak men rob stores because they don't want to wake up and work hard and go to work and do it the honorable way. It's a weak man who goes and steals. It's a weak man who beats the shit out of a girl. It's a weak man who shoots up a school. This is all weak men stuff. And society as a whole is telling men to be weaker and weaker, saying it's somehow the solution to everything because being a man is toxically masculine. Being a strong man is bad. It's toxically masculine. To be a good man, you have to be a very weak one. Well, look at the most heinous acts that are committed in society. Show me a strong, honorable, virtuous man of principle who's doing any of this stuff.
So weak men commit the atrocities in this world.
Absolutely they do. And it's weak men who also attack anybody of virtue, because I think when you're weak, you're intrinsically unhappy. Yeah. I don't think as a man you can be happy if you're weak. I think happiness and strength go hand in hand.
Yes.
I think that's how we're supposed to be, right? Even strength of mind, strength of conviction, strength of something. If you're weak, you're going to be miserable. So I do find satisfaction in the fact that most of the men who truly dislike me are miserable and weak. And also, like I said earlier about women being gatekeepers, women are fantastic. Women are they're like a barometer for society. I would say you can measure the strength of a society or the virtue of a society or how decayed a society is largely by the actions of many women. I'd like to argue that point. I can argue that point in many different ways. But women really want their man to be strong.
Of course.
They will punish you for being weak. And I'm not saying you can never cry to your woman. I'm not saying you can never open up to your woman. But there's going to become a time where she expects you to just be capable. There's a problem. And even if you don't know how to fix it, your job as a man is to say, I'll handle it. Even if you have no money and no hope. And to go find a way to fix the problem. If you're weak and go, I don't know, she becomes very resentful towards you. And she'll punish you for that weakness. And I think what she's trying to do on an evolutionary standard is inspire you to man up, because it's your job to protect her, isn't it? So if she sees you and looks at you and doesn't see you as a man who can protect her, she can't respect you.
So every survey of female happiness in the West shows just a straight decline since about 1970 till now. Women are becoming less happy in the West. I think it's very obvious. What accounts for that?
How can you be happy when all the men around you aren't men, right? We are the most beautiful union that God has possibly created on the planet. A feminine woman and a masculine man. It's the most beautiful union that can possibly exist. It raises children the best. Both parties are happier. Both parties gain. It's a net positive for everybody. There's no negative, there's no downside. But if you destroy one side of the equation, then the other side is going to be completely and utterly miserable and unhappy.
Andrew Tate, kind of an outlaw,
Yep.
lives in some palace in Romania,
Yep.
wherever that is.
Yep.
And Romania sounds like the kind of place where human trafficking is like the main industry.
A lot of it happens here. That's what's so crazy about it, right? What's so crazy is if they really wanted to find a human trafficker, I think they could probably do it quite easily. But they managed to get me.
That's certainly the perception. But it's one of those charges that kind of sells itself.
Oh, absolutely. And it doesn't matter if you're found guilty or not, right? You're a human trafficker forever. And but I do think that public consciousness is changing. I think with things like there's been some very large court cases recently involving some very famous people in which women were caught lying, trying to slander men's names for rape and these kinds of things. And I don't think people believe it anymore. But that scares me to a degree, because I think that the typical weapon, the standardized playbook, is now failing, and I don't know what the new playbook's going to be. It's almost like better the devil you know. That you're too famous, you're too successful, we don't like you. Call him a rapist or a human trafficker, put him all over the news, slander his name, try and wreck his life. Now that nobody believes it, what's the next move? What are they going to try next?
Wouldn't it just have been easier to commit like a massive financial crime and defraud people of billions, come up with like a fake cryptocurrency, call it like, I don't know, FTX, or just give a name to it.
Yeah, something random.
You know, steal billions and get your parents involved and buy a bunch of real estate in the Bahamas, and then like you'd be sort of a hero, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I would have certainly made a lot more money than TikTok, because I don't think TikTok even pays you for views. And if it certainly does, I never got a single transaction from it. So it's a very interesting scenario. But if I was accused of a financial crime, my name would not be slandered. So
no, of course. Well, of course not. You have the presumption of innocence. So just back to the jail thing. So you're in with your brother.
At the beginning, I was not, but towards the end, I was. Yeah.
What did you do all day?
It's a good question. I looked at the wall, stared at the wall, smoked cigarettes, lots of push-ups, read the Quran.
You smoked cigarettes, did push-ups, and read the Quran.
Basically, yes. And certainly had some introspective moments. Tried my best to get out, tried my best to via my small phone calls, understand what's happening in the outside world. Tried to make sure that the people I love and care about are taken care of, because I'm the man of my family, and I'm also the man of quite a large, I wouldn't say empire, but life. And there's a whole lot of people who rely on me. You know, you have staff and families, you have children and families.
I know the feeling, yeah.
So when you're plucked from that, it's kind of strange. You're in jail and you're concerned for yourself, but your primary concerns are also all your duties as a man. I have duties as a man. I don't want children to starve.
You've got a whole tribe.
I've got people to pay. So it was very, very frustrating, constantly trying to make sure everybody else was okay and feeling helpless. That's what hurt me the most. I was trying to make sure everybody I love and care about was fine, and I wasn't as powerful as I should have been. And that was very upsetting. And especially if they were going to keep me there for years, I was having serious concerns about how I can feed the people I love.
Did you ever come to the edge at all?
No. I certainly had some days I was less happy than others, but I made sure that my mindset was built in a way that I could always be doing something constructive. And also, I think you get what you give in life. And if I ever felt particularly sad on a day, I would try very hard to make other people happy, because if I made other people smile, I'd feel better. So, even the dinner ladies or the prison guards, I'd try very hard just to make people smile. I know it sounds silly. Some of the prison guards,
it doesn't.
Some of the prison guards were more open than others, but there was a couple prison guards who were ice cold, who didn't want to say a word to me. And I'm like, hey, bro, your hair looks amazing. And he just stare at me like he wants, shut up. But I just try my best to cheer people up, to cheer myself up. And as a man, all you can do is just find the resolve to continue doing the best you can in this current circumstance. So.
Hello and welcome along to the Tate News channel. In this video, we are going to talk about the Tate postcard. The Tate postcard has been done yesterday, in which the Tristan Tate and Andrew Tate has been talk about the self-discipline, self-improvement, and other different kind of disciplines that we use in our daily kind of life. But we are going to talk about the self-discipline and self-improvement, that through these kind of discipline we can improve our life up to a very great extent. And this is the very good idea from the Tristan Tate and the Andrew Tate side.